Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed to a Monday edition of the Mark Mosley Show podcast. As we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today. This is key. 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. And joining me here on a Monday to talk all things NBA playoffs, and especially now the news. Jamahl Mosley was let go by the Magic today. He's a good friend of mine there in Atlanta, covers the NBA, the Hawks, and this division. He's my great friend, Luke Hetrick. Luke, how you doing today?
I'm good. We didn't know we would be doing this until a text message earlier this afternoon, but I think at the end of the day, this was pretty much expected, Mark, but still that it happened significant nonetheless.
Well, here's the thing. For anyone who doesn't know, Luke's a great guy. That's number one. Number two, Luke was here in Orlando for a couple of years, did a great job covering the Magic, got to know Jamahl Mosley. So it's funny. I started posting about, all right, they let go the coach, all this stuff. And you text me, you're like, all right, that's it. That's it. I got to. What were your thoughts as a guy you covered for a couple of years, the news of Jamahl Mosley being let go?
Yeah, I think the immediate thought on it, Mark, and I appreciate the kind words with it, but, the immediate thought with Jamahl Mosley was, oh, it's a failure. This didn't end successfully. It didn't end the way you want it. So you look at the totality of those 5 years, then it just must have gone bad. In actuality, it was a highly successful 5-year run for the Orlando Magic under Jamahl Mosley, because we forget when he came into this organization, they were stuck in the mud. They were as irrelevant as it gets in the NBA, and they were just hoping for something. Now, the dominoes fell correctly to them with the 22 draft, getting the number 1 overall pick and Paolo Banchero. But before that, you had to build some semblance of a culture. And Jamahl Mosley was that guy. He'd said, we are going to strip this down. We're going to build these winning habits daily. We're going to be tenacious. We're going to be defensive first. We're not going to quit. And you saw that routinely throughout the first 4 years. It significantly took a step back this year. And that's where you say, okay, did it run its course? But the Magic, if they don't get that hire correct 5 years ago, this could be a franchise that is still stuck in the mud, cycling through lottery picks, and being where you see a New Orleans, a Washington, teams like that. And instead, you got a guy that gave you your best 3-year run since Stan Van Gundy. It was highly successful. He just wasn't the guy based on the way things were constructed. The roster that was put in place was not going to be the guy to elevate them. And it's just a question of who is and what does elevation look like for this franchise.
All right, here's how I'll defend Jamahl Mosley. Is it really his fault that Franz got injured? No. Is it also his fault that Jalen Suggs, it looked like he shot 4 for 100,000 in this series? No, it's not. That's not. What about Paolo, where one night he's getting 35, the next night he's getting 15? The inconsistency there. My thing is, there had to be a fall guy. This is the problem with pro sports. Someone has to be a fall guy for the failing. And sadly, and I like Jamahl Mosley. I always liked him. He's a great guy. But there had to be a fall guy, and it was him. Is that fair to say, Luke?
Absolutely. And I think there's ways you can still be critical of the job Jamahl Mosley did, but the criticism he gets compared to the criticism pie around the organization, Jamal's piece is probably a lot bigger when it should be much smaller than it actually is. So that's basically the way I would look at it originally. You take it into effect of this is just the way things go in the NBA. You have a star player, you try and elevate it. They put all their resources. Paolo's our guy. We're going to build with him. We're going to get him a running mate. We're going to try and do all these things around him. And the first ones to go is going to be the coach. But yeah, you can't control the amount of injuries you have, the lack of shooting. I think where you can be critical of Jamahl Mosley at times is his use or lack of use of timeouts, stopping some of the bleeding, some of the creativity or lack of it on offense, where a lot of times it was a few motions and then it ended up being Paolo or Franz in an ISO situation. You weren't always having your best players in the most advantageous positions when you need them to be, because these guys, as good as they are, and when they get hot, it's great. These aren't guys that can consistently get their own shot. They certainly lacked a point guard that was not a table setter that could do that. But these are all guys, and this was the thing that Jamahl Mosley was brought in for, to be a player development coach. And he did that in a lot of ways. The guys that they continue to roll with in these significant positions, when you look at a Jalen Suggs, a Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, guys coming off the bench, Tristan Da Silva, Anthony Black, didn't take that step that was needed for this organization in these moments. So is that all on Jamahl Mosley and his staff? Maybe. Is that more on them just missing some of these players that they drafted? That's probably more where the blame lies in this. But Jamahl Mosley certainly isn't void of blame, but he isn't the complete reason the Magic are in this position. And you using the term fall guy, it is accurate in this situation, but still has some criticism that is fair.
Here's where the frustration comes out, where this morning we get the report, oh yeah, Jeff Weltman got the extension. I mean, not this morning, but the news came out. It happened earlier in the season. And then Mosley, again, is the fall guy. What? It's funny you bring up a bunch of that stuff about the organization with all these different players. Honestly, if we're going to just throw it all out there, they drafted well with Paolo and they drafted well with Franz. That's about it. I'm sorry. You bring up some of these other guys. This is not a championship roster right now. It's not.
No, and you can sit here and, with hindsight being 2020, Mark, and you can go down the list of some of the misses and the big ones that Jeff Weltman has had in the draft, and not even the misses from the draft, but guys that he has hung on to over the years where you say maybe you should have cut your losses earlier on that, mainly being Jonathan Isaac. But to credit Jeff Weltman here, I mean, he has done his job where you have to draft the superstar when you have the opportunity. And who was available in that 22 draft? You got the guy that probably had the most star power or potential star power. There was always this talk with Paolo of higher floor than everyone, lower ceiling. But he's a guy that's proven 4 years into the league, out of all those top 4 or 5 draft picks, he's the guy. He's clearly the best option. And a lot of that is on Paolo. You credit him for how good he's been and what his development's been. You credit Jamahl Mosley for that too. But what Jeff Weltman did was he made the right hire when he first got in with Steve Clifford, a guy that walked into a situation and said, we got to figure this out. We got to maximize what we have in a roster with Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier, a team that you knew really wasn't going to compete for titles, but you owed it to those guys who had been there 5, 6, 7 years, and the fan base too, who had just been through it, to get a guy that could basically just squeeze the towel, wring it out, and maximize the talent. And he got back-to-back playoff appearances. And then you had to go get the guy when you bottomed out, sold the farm at the deadline in 21 to start from scratch and rebuild. Jeff Weltman found the absolute right guy in Jamahl Mosley. So the credit is to him that he is 2 for 2 on coaching hires for the situation they're in. It's a question now if he can get that. But when you say fall guy here, a lot of it is on Jeff Weltman too, not Jamahl Mosley, because when you're asking a guy like Mose to cook surf and turf and you're handing him Spam and a can of tuna, the results aren't going to be great. When you have heard this fan base, and not just the fans, people around the league, people in your own building that have said, go get shooting. Go get guys that can create their own offense. Go get guys that can knock down consistent threes, that can spread the floor, that can give space for Paolo. And that has never really been their priority. And the time they addressed it through the draft was Jet Howard, who was a real project. And it was your last lottery pick that you're going to have for a long time. And it just didn't really seem to make sense. It was sort of an afterthought. And trying to get Desmond Bane, who was, again, to credit Jeff Weltman, for this year was the correct move. And with all the picks that they gave up, this season's lost without Desmond Bane. You give him credit there, but you just can't say we're going to add one shooter and everything's going to be fine. So
I agree.
To me, that is a huge flaw. And it is at the point where you are now just avoiding the biggest fundamental principle of basketball, which is putting the ball through the hoop. And in the modern NBA, you have to be able to shoot. It is so hard. I don't care for whatever coach you bring in to try and elevate the talent on this roster, to think that they're going to hit an average 4 to 5 more threes a game, be a better shooting team with what you have. It's really unfair to say, Jamahl, you should have done exponentially better with what you had when none of the guys were available, and the guys you did have were not shooters, and they knew they weren't shooters, and they had described themselves in the past as non-shooters. and still was not addressed.
I'm happy you brought up Bane. He was great. He was worth the 4 picks. He played all 82 games, which is amazing. Anyone could do that now in today's NBA. He disappeared in game 6 and 7. He did. I think a lot of the Magic players did. And they were not the same once Franz went down in that game. They were not. Honestly, in the game 4 win, they really didn't play well either in that basketball game. But they got it done. My criticism of this team the whole year, just the eye test, it looked like they were playing 4-on-5 on offense. And that's my criticism of Black and Suggs. You can't do that. And you look at Philadelphia, where you have Edgecombe and you have Maxey. Yeah, you have dominant guards that can score, right? And I know I'm getting it all off my chest now. I'm getting it all
off. It's a safe space. We're in the trust tree.
Okay. This is very important. Paolo is the man. He is the face of this franchise. You got to get him a guard that can get him the ball consistently and open up this offense. This reminds me when you had Shaq, you got him Penny to get him the ball as a 1-2 punch. I know they don't grow on trees. They don't, but that's how you win at basketball. Outside, inside. There's got to be those two guys. And it's funny. I had guys come up to me and go, well, let's go get Giannis then. No, Giannis would be a plug as well with Paolo. You still would have no shooting from the outside. Well, that's the problem.
You would not have Giannis and Paolo on the team. I mean, the deal would be to get that. You would have to cut ties with Paolo for it. And look, Paolo is not innocent from any criticism here. I mean, Paolo should be held accountable. As fantastic as he was in Game 5, and even in Game 7, we needed you in Game 6 if you're the Magic. You know, the people on the sideline, you know, Jamahl Mosley, the staff, Jeff Waltman, the DeVos family are going, hey, look, you're our number 1 pick. I know it's not perfect. I know you're not super happy. I know you wish this was cohesively better. I know you wish you had your help. But you know what? Got to put your head down and up 24 in the second half, man. You should be able, if you're a max player and a number 1 pick, to go get that done. Whether you think that is fair or not of Paolo Banchero, that is the expectation of a number 1 pick, of the all-star, even though he wasn't this year, of the all-star caliber player on the roster. And when he is your centerpiece, you should be able to go get it done. I think it's hard to criticize him wholly for these playoffs because he had some really good moments throughout it in this series. And he's had really good moments the last couple years as well. The criticism you have of Paolo is, where was this the entire season? Where was that level of urgency? Where was that leadership? Where was that put your head down, knock down shots, get to the rim, create fouls? Where was the confidence in your jump shot? You didn't see that for large stretches of the season. And at this point, and Jamahl Mosley was very constructive about this, he wanted this to be a player-empowered team. And that's probably where some of the fans have concerns of, why aren't you calling timeouts? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? He trusted those guys to be able to say, we can figure it out. You don't need me to babysit. Now, that's not saying he wasn't coaching, but it's saying you guys are mature enough to get through some of these moments. They've been built on toughness. They've been built on their resiliency, their mental fortitude. But you saw it throughout this season when the avalanche was coming and you saw Paolo sort of revert and not be aggressive and put his head down and lack the confidence and wasn't attacking and was complaining to the officiating. That's your leader. That's your star. That's who everyone's taking their cues from. And when you don't see that, who else are you going to get it from? So Paolo is not void of any criticism here at all. But to your point, Mark, he's the centerpiece. He is their franchise. And I understand if there are concerns from Paolo on this, you got to get me help. I'm not perfect. Paolo puts his hand up and says, hey, I haven't played well. I haven't done this. But you got to give me some help. You got to eliminate all doubt. Get me some shooting. Get me a guard play. Get me a rim protector. I understand it's hard to bring free agents to Orlando. But with what you have right now, you should be able to make a move, because you look across the league, teams are not sitting and waiting. Teams are being active. And when you have a star player, or you think you have a star in Paolo, which the numbers suggest, sure he is just per game average, but his efficiency is very low. But if you have a guy that commands all this attention, you have to go about getting the right pieces around him. And to this point, They have not. And that's what's frustrated Magic fans is you just think you're going to grow with these guys. The writing's been on the wall for 2 years. The move should have been made after the Cleveland series, not stay pat, run it back. Stay pat, run it back. Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. That was 2 years ago. That game 7, they should have won in Cleveland. That was the most I felt positive about the team, about the future. It's been 2 years later, and they have not gotten better. And I think that's the failure of the franchise. Now, there's still look. I'm still positive here. They're so young as a franchise, this core. But here's the thing: you can't tell this fan base we're just going to run this back with a new coach. No. You've got to make some moves, or they're not paying for those tickets. I'm sorry.
No.
You have. No.
And I think when it comes to a new coach, Mark, all the criticism we want to give to Jamahl Mosley, there were times for large stretches, really the last 2 years, Paolo misses a couple of months with the oblique. Franz misses even more time. Jalen Suggs, who's proven throughout his career, he cannot stay on the floor. Availability is a skill. He does not have it. Mo Wagner tears his ACL. Jonathan Isaac has just never been healthy. Wendell Carter Jr. is not a guy that's going to play 82 straight games as a center. It's just not going to happen. Anthony Black gets banged up a little bit. You have all of this happening the last 2 years, and somehow with glue and tape, Jamahl Mosley was able to find ways to motivate this team, get them to play hard, get them in advantageous positions to where they're grinding out 40 to 45 wins. And when most other teams would fold and say, we'll just do lottery this year, we'll figure it out later. Okay, it's not worth it. You got them to that point. If this team was healthy, and it's the big if, and they're not going to be, and expecting Franz, Paolo, Suggs, Bane, Anthony Black, Wendell to all play 75 games next year, it's not happening. In a perfect world, sure, if you get the right coach in there that presses the right buttons and they're all healthy, this is a team that can win 50 games, maybe even north of that. But they won 45 this year. But what happens next year, and this is all knock on wood, Magic fans, you have a slew and an avalanche of injuries that you've had every year for the last 6-8 years. There's some sort of catastrophic injury that sets them back. Is that coach going to be the whisperer that presses all the right buttons and elevates everyone else like Jamahl Mosley did? Or is this a team that's just going to go shrug their shoulders, sink down, and we could have won 52 games, but we might be winning 33 this year? Is that what's going to happen? Because that's what people took for granted with Jamahl Mosley, his ability to flip the script, win games they shouldn't a lot of times during that season. But what drove people crazy is when everyone was healthy, it didn't click, or they would have a couple clunkers more than you expect a good top 4 seed in theory to have.
We heard Luke Hetrick talking about Jamahl Mosley was let go. And I'm just going to tell you this right now. He's getting another job in the NBA. He is going to coach another. It was funny. My buddy Tom, who loves the Bulls, goes, hey, would the Bulls hire him? And I go, you know what? For a full rebuild? Yeah, I think he'd be great there with that. I think he's fine. Like, I know it's very sad today, but I think he's going to get another opportunity here. I think he's fine.
He's as respected as anyone in the NBA. I mean, former players rave about him around the league. He's well respected. His ties with USA Basketball, coaching the select team. People love him. He's going to get another opportunity. The question with Jamahl Mosley is going to be, sure, he can go to a New Orleans, a Chicago, a Milwaukee that are clear rebuilds, that are going to need that infusion of culture, that youthful spirit. Jamahl Mosley at this time is probably going to sit back. And I don't know this from talking. I haven't talked to him about this, but probably going to be a little patient with where he wants to go and not jump into this situation because, look, he proved that he could do a masterful job getting a team out of the cellar and into relevance. Does he want to do that again? Is there a team out there that goes, we like what you're doing. We're kind of in the middle of the pack. We're not stuck in the mud. We think you can be the guy. That would be the job if Jamahl Mosley's offered. I think he goes with that. He can prove he can be that coach that isn't let me just get you guys, let me fix it. I'll be the culture. I'll be the rah-rah. I'll help grow these guys. And then when they get to 46 wins and lose in the first round, you go hire Ty Lue or JB Bickerstaff or Darvin Ham or whoever. Like, I don't think he wants to continually be that guy. There are very few jobs in the NBA. There's only a handful of openings every year, so beggars cannot be choosers. But Jamahl has proven, and people aren't going to agree with this, and I understand it. This team has been shorthanded and outmatched all 3 playoffs. And you came away in 2 of those going, damn, they could have won this. The teams they were going up against were flat out better, even against Boston last year. That was a tough 5-game series. He's proven to be a good playoff coach with a horrendous shooting roster and a lack of spacing and injuries up and down his lineup. He's still found a way to maximize the talent. So I feel that some team out there is going to go, there was a lot of the deck stacked against him there. If he goes somewhere where there is more of an expectation, win now or elevate now, that might be the move for him. But he can get any of these jobs that he wants trying to rebuild. I don't know what he wants, though.
Yeah, and they're just throwing out names. I saw Dusty May this morning, and I know Billy Donovan's out there, former Gator coach, all that stuff. Well, let's end with this. All right, that second half. I know there's people in the background talking. You're in a busy newsroom. I get it. So that second half Friday night, I have covered many levels of sports. That was like 28-3. Super Bowl. That was, I don't know what the hell I did. Were you there? Were you there in Atlanta when they were down 50 points?
Oh, you're saying, okay, when you're saying Friday night, I'm thinking game 6 Magic, not game 6 Atlanta was Thursday. So that's what was throwing me.
Okay, I apologize. So, all right, I'm going to do this again because then I'll cut this up, right, for Twitter because that's what you have to do. So, you're there. Were you there Thursday night for Atlanta when they were down 50? So, that must have been the worst thing you've ever seen. But then I don't know. I think scoring the 19 points and a half might be worse than getting bombed out of the building like the Knicks did to the Hawks. I think it's worse. I do.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great watching a team at one point be down 72-22 with like 4 minutes to go in the first half. It just wasn't great. It was worse seeing game 6, the second half of the Magic. And I say that because the Hawks have gone through so many iterations of a roster this year. They went and they had Trae Young at the beginning of the year. They go get Kristaps Porzingis, and they're going to do that variation of a pick and pop big with a point guard. And then now it's Trae's out, and here's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and now we're going to make another deal, and Trae's gone, and it's CJ McCollum, and now here's the deadline move. So Quentin Snyder constantly had basically a new team like every 6 weeks that he was dealing with. And the fact that they were 26-30 at one point this season. They were deep in the play-in picture. And post All-Star break, they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. He presses the right buttons. He gets rid of Trae Young. They have the guys that can play more open and move the ball. I mean, you saw their performances against the Magic this year. Each time, they were the better team. They were a matchup nightmare. But they just exceeded expectations so quickly. So that team that has not been battle-tested, that they made it look really easy throughout the season, runs into a Knicks team that got really mad after game 3, that the Hawks were hanging around, made the adjustments. Quinn Snyder makes adjustments that Hawks fans are going to criticize. And you just got a team that hadn't really been punched in the mouth and didn't have that true leader. It was way worse than you would like. You start questioning things. You start questioning, is Quinn Snyder the right guy, which he absolutely is for this Hawks team right now. He was actually the guy I thought if Atlanta was going to move on from him earlier in the year, he would have been perfect in Orlando. He's a guy that knows offense. He is an offensive spacing movement genius. And I thought he would have been perfect for what the Magic need. Having said all that, it's the same Magic team that we've seen time and time again. And we saw them have just an abysmal performance in Toronto earlier in the year. A couple clunkers against Atlanta. Like, you knew they're capable of this. And then it's just that, oh my gosh, they finally are going to do it. They're finally going to figure it out. They're hitting threes in the first half. Desmond Bane's on fire. Suggs, Wendell, they're stepping in and hitting it. They're going to exercise their demons without Franz Wagner. Jamahl Mosley looks like a genius figuring this out without his best complete player. He's going to beat his best friend. He's going to move on to the next round. And oh my God, they can get Cleveland or Toronto. They can beat those teams. Everything's fine. It had been this culmination with this core for like 4 years. This is the point. This is the point. And then all the insecurities Magic fans have had It's the worst thing you could have ever imagined. It's the worst thing. So I understand why he was fired, but I also understand this. Why Magic fans are waking up this morning going, Jamahl Mosley's been dismissed. Okay, I get that. Jeff Waltman has an extension. You're going to have to explain that to me a little bit more. That's what probably most Magic fans are thinking right now, because the complaints have been as equal to Jamahl Mosley and the scheme and the coaching job he did this year to the roster that he has been handed. And this is another iteration that Jeff Waltman's going to work through. And there are question marks about that. I compare it, Mark, and I will say this, to the situation Atlanta was when you have to get to that crossroads. And I don't know if the Magic are there yet, but they're getting to this point. And what are you going to do? Atlanta was at that place before this season even started. And Ansi Saleh, their general manager, came in and just went, nope, no, we've done this for too long. It is time to move on. And he made 4 or 5 different shrewd moves between free agency, between the draft, between trading Trae Young and the players they got in return, to getting rid of Kristaps Porzingis and trying to make it work with Jonathan Kuminga. Like, he pressed all the right buttons. And I'm not saying that's the standard, that you got to make all these moves in a 9-month span and you're going to be successful. But when you're the Magic and you've kind of stood pat and you just waited and you drafted and then you develop some of these guys and it's okay, we really need shooting. We're going to mortgage our future to get Desmond Bane. That should do it. Okay, it didn't. Let's fire the coach. Now let's go back to the well again. The patience among the fan base is very thin, as it should be. They've been given a lot of false hope. We were on the ground floor. It's a great time to be a Magic fan. We remember that from a few years ago. And they're just sitting there going, this doesn't add up. And why should we believe that you can construct this when you've had a 9-year body of work, that you're going to fix it in this year, that it's just a coaching thing? There's reason to be skeptical about that.
I took this from the game. Okay. So I took this. So I have this in my office and I think, okay, who's still going to be on this roster next year? That's what I keep thinking now. Right. And look, so here's,
let's do it. You want to do it? Let's play GM right now, Mark.
All right, we're GM real quick. Okay. Yeah. So you got Kane.
Keep him.
De Silva.
He'll be there.
Franz.
There.
Paulo.
All right, think about it, but yeah, he'll be there.
Bane. Black.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going all of them. All right.
You see who's not on that list. You see who's conveniently not on that poster.
All right, so Wendell Carter Jr. is not here. Jalen Suggs is not here. Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, you're right. No Jonathan Isaac. No Mo Wagner. I'm happy he finally got to play, by the way.
That's a big criticism that we probably glossed over, is not having him on the floor. But I think the biggest move this offseason that they would make in terms of a deal would be making a trade for Jalen Suggs. Getting Jalen Suggs off the books, I think, is pretty significant for this team, and it's probably time.
The thing I'll remember, so after Game 6, the stadium is silent, just dead. It's a funeral. People are angry. So I'm downstairs, and I walked by the Pistons locker room, and it was like a Disney movie. They're like, yeah, and they're high-fiving, and yeah, they're dropping F-bombs. They're so excited, and they knew they broke the Magic. They broke them. Broke them right there. And everyone working at the Kia Centers thinking like, well, see you next year. That's literally the thought process. And I know you were there. I knew you were there in Atlanta for your Game 6. You guys are probably thinking the same thing. All right, well, we're done. We've been eliminated.
It was one of those where it's like, when it happens, the initial shock is, okay, I think a lot of people expected the Knicks to come in there and win that. The way games 4 and 5 went, the script flipped. They had controlled it. They were blowouts. You're thinking Atlanta's going to come out backs against the wall. And actually, they had a 9-0 run early in the first quarter, and we're up 9-5. And you're like, okay, the juice is there. And then it just fell off a cliff. So if they lose that game by 20, you're sitting there going, okay, they just ran into a better team.
Yeah.
Quinn did a masterful job with this lineup. They have a true superstar that I shouldn't say superstar, but a star that's ascending into a superstar in Jalen Johnson. like the right pieces around, like you're thinking, okay, everything's on the right path, but you lose in that fashion and you're like, oh my, okay, we gotta rethink some things here. Does Quinn get the extension? Do we need to make some moves? Do we need to shake things up? And it was essentially just, it was so bad. And it was just immediately in the aftermath of it, you're like, I don't know what to think. Quinn Snyder's the right coach for the job. Everyone takes a breath. You're sitting there and going, okay, they won 46 games. They got out of the play and everything's fine. The Magic, everyone knew, following along on my phone, I'm like, okay, they're up 22. And then you just slowly see the text come in like, oh my gosh, they missed 18, 20, 23 straight shots. It's a different vibe. This is a team that has been through it and been together. Atlanta hadn't been through something like that yet. So you kind of give them, as much as bad as it sounds, a little bit of grace. With the Magic, you just don't. You don't. This team was built to weather these storms and not even be in that situation, and they were. I mean, everyone knew. Writing was on the wall.
When they tied it at 72, the game was over. It's the most bizarre feeling in the world. It's like, oh, let's get it. All right.
Well, they're up 17 in game 3, and then they come back and tie it, and you're like, hey, they got the fortitude to come through and do that. Okay, and they win game 3. Awesome. And then you're like, 72. Okay, different story. Completely different story.
72. So, all right. It seems Luke Hendrick, I appreciate you coming on short notice. You're a great dude. I loved your segment when you're like, Angel Reese is here in Atlanta. That was my favorite. That was my favorite. Okay.
Yeah, hey, I'll tell you what. Yeah, the comments section felt the same way too.
No, it's awesome. Look, she's a brand. She's awesome. Like, you know what I mean?
Look, yeah. I'll give my 2 cents on that just real quick. Like, you got a true superstar.
Yeah.
Fits in Atlanta. People, is she a superstar in the sense that she's going to average 25 and 15 a game? No. But she is a mega figure in women's sports. In basketball these days, whether you love her or not, you're going to pay attention to her, and she's going to make that team better. So it's a fun time to be the WNBA. It's a fun time to be with the Dream. I don't know if it's a fun time for Angel Reese right now, as Wendell Carter and Jalen Duren just faced off, and now there's that seems like not. That seems I don't envy the position she's in for that. But you know what? Her season's coming up. She's got to have a short memory. She's gonna be fine.
Yes. All right. His name's Luke Hendrick. Thanks for your help, buddy, and I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right. Always a pleasure, Mark. Thank you.